Welcome to the Lighthouse Financial Advisors Money Over 50 podcast with Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Lighthouse Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Today our topic, which Michael you've come up with, cash is king.
Yes, cash is king. Not to invest into, but what I'm talking about here is the old-fashioned, once a bygone era of actually taking cash out.
Is this going to be one of these things where you talk about, you know, the good old days,
nostalgia,
and no.
So what I'm talking about here is taking cash out for certain discretionary expenses, and which is a thing of the past at the moment. Like, so I actually, when I go to pay with cash now, anyone who's serving me gets a shock.
Yeah.
They bring out the little paywave thing. And then I front up with a $50 note, and they, oh my god, geez, can anyone help me open the till over here? Look, it's a thing. It's becoming a thing of the past now.
So what you're talking about here is not going and getting the cash out to pay that bill right there. You're talking about taking out a certain amount every week to fund those expenses. That's right?
That's right. So there's only certain. So these are my worst offenders. These expenses. Yeah. It's a way of actually capping the sum total of all these worst offenders.
Yeah. And that's a great example. You start to see over time. Like I would have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of budgets by now, and as you say, there are the worst offenders of no one's ever overspending on their rates.
No,
it's just never happens. No one's overspending on any of those sorts of things.
Yep.
All of the overspending happens in certain areas, and that's kind of what you're talking about when you cap those worst offenders. It's what are the line items in your budget that you're most likely to blow that budget out in.
Yes, and there's I guess subcategories of these, but there's really, well, I would say three main culprits.
Yep.
Which are entertainment.
Yep.
Which are gifts.
Yep.
So gift buying for people.
Yep.
Can be out of control.
Yep.
I mean, people often don't fully budget for that.
Yeah.
And clothing.
Yeah.
So you know, the subcategories of entertainment would be dining out, takeaway,
drinking, gambling,
alcohol,
all the finer things in life.
Yeah, all of those types of things. Look at there's so many of those types of things.
I think I should stop jumping in because we've talked about this so much that I kind of know the point you're making here. But what we're talking about here is not us capping that for our clients, or it's not us saying how much you should spend on that. It's really more about saying these are the expenses that people do their budget and then say to me, I spend $100 a month on dining out, and that's what they think is actually happening. And when you talk about these are the worst offenders of, these are the expenses that people kid themselves or just genuinely don't know how much they spend on these items, and it's easy to overspend on.
They genuinely don't know how much they spend. They do kid themselves as well. They think that their future self will be very different from their past self.
I love the analogy that you used before of if you go to a dietitian, and this is what we find when people look at how much will I spend on these areas, the entertainment, the clothing, the gifts. They have a perception of themselves as this idealized, hard saving, person who's not going to spend any money on these things.
Yes.
And so if you go to a dietitian, they don't ask you, what do you normally eat? They say, tell me what you ate in the last 24 hours.
It's a fantastic differentiation because it's factual what you ate in the last
that's right.
24 hours.
Yeah.
So we ask people the same thing now. When they tell us, we spend $100 a month on dining out, we say, what did you do in the last fortnight?
Yeah.
And they, that's right. Oh, we went out.
Had our niece's 21st, so we went out for dinner for that. But that's not normal.
We don't usually do that.
Then we had fish and chips one night. That was And then we went out we got takeaway one night because we just couldn't be bothered cooking. But that's not usual. We don't usually do that. Yeah. And that's exactly the point that you're making there. Is this future version of people? It's amazing, and we're seeing that in January now of people that have been drinking and eating and having a grand time and not worrying about their health for the last 11 months. This version of them will be very different.
That's right.
And it won't happen like that this time around.
So there is a solution. Because, look, it's very, very common for people to come to us and say, we don't know where... Yeah. When they're coming to us for the first time, they're saying, we don't know where our money went last year.
Yeah.
And, people will say to us also, we'll come and see you when we get some money. Yeah. So that's another common one. So look, there's a way around it. So what this is people. Look, I firmly believe paying for things on credit card or card in general is the culprit. Yeah. Because it's so difficult to track. Yeah. How much you're spending. It's so easy to overspend in many areas.
And I think there's two parts to that, isn't there? Is it number one? It's easy. It's less painful. You know what I mean?
It's less painful.
So the two parts to the strategy for me of why it works so well are, the first bit is that it's less painful. If you go to do something and you've got to pull out a $50 note and hand that over to someone and they give you shrapnel in return, that's a bit painful. Like
it is.
That hurts. Whereas if you just tap your card or your phone or your watch or whatever you actually have now, it won't be long before there'll be something embedded in our skin and we just wave our hand over something.
Look, that's so simple. You don't even have to sign for it now. Yep. So you used to have to, if you spent $200, you had to sign for it.
Yep.
But you don't have to do that now.
No.
You tap, and you don't. The receipt goes in the bag of the
you never have to look at
running shoes that you bought or whatever it is.
Yep.
So look, what we're talking about here is not to not spend money on these things, is to have a realistic budget for these things, because people kid themselves. Yeah. That's what leads to trouble. So they say,
and that's the second part. So the first one is spending cash makes it more salient, more painful. Yeah. And the second part is that a card, it feels infinite how much you can just keep tapping your card.
It does. And look, to the same example, to pay $200 for a pair of shoes. Yeah. Versus peeling off 4 crisp $50 note avocados and handing that over. Yeah. Now, it's more significant. Yeah. So you can quickly crunch the numbers. So if your budget for all of these things is $1,000 a fortnight, for example, which is not uncommon. That's my actual personal budget.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Types of things. So you go, oh gee, I've spent 1/5 of my budget in that one transaction. Yeah. So you're not thinking of that when you're tapping. I guarantee you. Yeah. So and what we're talking about here is adding up all these culprits. Yeah. And summing them up under one balance. Yeah. So that if you spend more in one, you spend less in another. Yeah. And the cash out for me is the only way to work. Yeah. I've heard heaps. Yeah. How many times I've heard in my career people saying, "Oh yeah, we clear our credit card every month," and I say, "Oh, that's meaningless because like you have $6,000 disposable income every month, and I'm guessing your credit card ends up around $6,000 every month." Oh yeah, how'd you know? Yeah. Because you're conditioned now to spend everything that you. Yeah. So for me, that's a wasted opportunity. If I could cap those expenses at $3,000 for that month. Yep. By some pretty good tricks. Yeah. Then I've got $3,000 a month to actually get ahead. Yeah,
and that's I guess the second part of, as we were saying, when we're looking at this with people, the first step is to go, what are you actually spending now? Where is your money really going? And then the second part of it is that, as you're saying, they're going, okay, well, you might have $6,000 a month going on those discretionary expenses. Is that what you want to be happening? And
yes.
That's the second part, is going, well, just because you can clear your credit card every month, it doesn't necessarily mean that is what you would ideally be doing with that money. You may be you may be taking some of that money and spending it on the here and now, and then you might also look at it and go, well, I want to put, however much that is, a couple of $1,000 a month, whatever it is, and save that for the future. But the first step is to sit down and work out exactly what's going on, and then this is your forcing mechanism that you do this yourself and your wife.
Yeah, so I've tried all the different ways.
Yeah.
Of running a budget, and for me, this is the simplest way.
Yeah.
It's a foolproof way.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to overspend.
Yeah.
And it gives you instant visual feedback.
Yeah.
So I take $1,000 out every fortnight to spend on entertainment.
Yeah.
We spend that on gifts. It buys any, if the kids are going to a birthday party or something like that, then that's to buy gifts, clothing.
Yeah.
And look, I include groceries in there as well. You don't have to, because groceries tend to be what they are.
Yeah.
I like to include them because there's a trade-off there with entertainment. So, for example, if you take out $1,000 a fortnight and you have 3 days left before your next $1,000 a fortnight comes out, and you have $200 left in that allocation, that cash allocation that you've taken out, and you need to do a grocery shop, you're probably not going to go out for dinner. Then.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we'll wait 3 days and we'll actually just buy groceries with this money. So I mean, I do like to include groceries there. It's not the be all and end all though.
Yeah.
What's most important is that the entertainment, the gifts, and the clothing, and the subcategories of entertainment, of course, this includes any takeaway, any dining out, any alcohol, any going out to have any sort of fun. Like that's all captured under that money coming out. And whether it's $1,000 a fortnight, or it's $600 a fortnight, or it's $1,500 a fortnight, it's different for every single person. It has to be realistic, and it has to fit in with your other goals and objectives. So we have to build that in and say, okay, this is something that you would do every pay. So it's not necessarily, we're talking about fortnightly here, but it's not every fortnight per se. It's every pay. So if you get paid weekly, you would do it weekly. If you get paid monthly, you would do it monthly. Look, fortnightly is good. I mean, it's good that most people get paid fortnightly. Fortnightly is good. Why I find fortnightly good is that it's over 2 weekends.
And that's normally you find I do anyway. You normally have a busier weekend. And then you go, I don't want to do that again. I just want to stay home.
That's right. Well, and the other thing too is it gets you thinking ahead. So if you take $1,000 out, I keep harping back to that example, but it could be any number. And so that's on a Wednesday, which is payday. Now, this weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, you know that you have a big weekend planned because you've got people coming from out of town, and you're going to show them around and take them out for dinner. What I find you do is you purposely try to have the cheapest weekend. This one coming, if you know what I mean, because you want to carry forward as much money into that next weekend. And it gets you thinking ahead as well, because if you only spend $800 for the fortnight, for example, then you squirrel away $200 for future use, which you can, and if you do that again for the next fortnight, then you squirrel away another $200. And all of a sudden you have an expensive fortnight. You've got the $1,000 that you took out plus $400 squirreled away. So
that's I think a big part of this. As you just touched on, the amount will differ for everyone, but sometimes the hardest thing with this strategy is getting people to be realistic and honest with themselves about what that is. It's easy to, as I just said before, you want to sit down and work out, what do I want? What am I spending now? What do I want to change that to? But when you're looking at what you want to change it to, it's got to be reasonable. Like you can't be sitting here going, currently we have $1,200 a fortnight that we're blowing in these areas. We're going to spend $200 a fortnight now. You're just not going to be able to stick to that.
No.
You are better off erring on the side of, okay, well, we'll leave a little bit of fat in that so that we do have a bit of scope for in those quieter. Because as you said, we've tried this in many different ways, and what you see a lot is people go, I'll say I can spend less, and I will spend less, And I'll do that for 2 months or 3 months or 6 months or however long.
Yep.
And then I'll have a blowout.
Yes.
And that will undo all the
and
good work.
it undoes the good work.
Yeah.
And it really gets you thinking. And so those expenses, entertainment with the subcategories that I explained, gifts, and clothing for yourself or your family members. They're the three big ones.
Yeah.
And they fight amongst themselves.
I love that analogy.
I love the fight.
analogy. It's like a ruck in AFL where everyone's trying to elbow each other out of the way. But you're dead right, because what I like about them fighting it out is that you're not. It's not, again, this ties back to the thing we spoke about in a recent podcast about willpower. And most people go, I want to spend $100 a week on dining out, and I want to save X amount. And then the fighting it out is between how much should I save, how much should I spend on dining out.
Yep.
Whereas if you can structure this where every dollar that you don't spend on dining out is another dollar that you can spend on another form of entertainment, it makes it a lot easier to be a bit careful with that.
You do. Look, now, with those three categories of expenses, if you don't have a set budget, they're all important.
Yes.
Now, as soon as I give you a budget, if I say you can spend no more than $1,000 a fortnight on those three things, including groceries in this example, you now start to think, and you're ranking them already. Which one's more important?
Well, that example of your $200 running shoes. If someone just said, "Do you want a pair of running shoes?" Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's no pain to get them. If someone said, "You can have your $200 running shoes this Friday, but next weekend you were going to go on this trip, or you were going to go out for dinner, or you were going to do this," and that was going to cost that $200. If you buy these shoes, you can't now do that.
You can't now do that. Yeah.
You make very different choices.
You make different choices, and for a lot of so effective budgeting is oftentimes just delaying the expenditure and not doing it now. So example here is that if you have you're having a reunion, for example, at your local sporting club, and everyone's coming from out of town, and you're going to have a big, you're going out for dinner, and you're doing this and that, and you're drinking and all that.
I was about to say, mate, if you have a sporting reunion, do you go out for a nice dinner? There's no, just 40 beers. I'd say.
Guys, football reunions don't tend to be going out for dinner, but I know when girls play sport, they tend to go out for dinner. So I'm just giving an example. So look, if you were buying the running shoes for $200, that particular fortnight, you would blow the budget that fortnight.
Yeah.
So all it is about saying, okay, I'm going to be very, very busy doing these things for this fortnight. It's going to be very expensive. I'm just going to delay buying these shoes for the next fortnight. Yeah. And it's all about allocating your expenses across different fortnights or different pay periods, so that you'd, because what's really ruins people by the end of the year is that they've blown out the budget in 26 fortnights.
Yes. Yep.
And even if they've only blown it out a little bit, then multiplied by 26.
Yeah.
What ends up happening though is that 10 fortnights along the way, they have blown out all 10 fortnights, and then they just go, I'm just going to let go completely. It's too hard. So this is all about, again, having a realistic budget. Yeah. It's not about shaving it to unrealistic low amounts. Yeah. It's about saying, okay, let's build this into the budget. Yeah. And in the best case scenario, if you don't spend the money, you take it out and you squirrel it away. Now, if you're telling me, so you could tell me, cash just won't work for us because we're not in the habit of spending cash. So the workaround for this is to set up a separate bank account. Yeah. And you would nickname that, discretional spending or entertainment, clothing, gifts, or something like that. Well, and what you would do is you would have a debit card linked to that account, not a credit card. So you have a debit card linked to that account, and you would, every time you got paid in this example, you would just have a recurring transfer of $1,000 a fortnight going across into this account, and then you would spend via that debit card. Yeah, that would achieve. Look, I think it's a lesser. I think it's the same result if you do it correctly.
But
I
it's
think it
harder to
doesn't
do
work
right.
as
Yeah.
well. I mean, the good thing about the cash, it gives you that visual feedback.
That-
and this is the old jar system. So I have a jar
Yeah.
at home, and I can and I can look at that jar and go, yeah, there's about 1,000 in it, and
Yeah.
then
As
I
it
can
comes
look at it and I
down.
go, there's probably only about 400 in that.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
So you can and I've got
Yeah.
to make that $400 last
Yeah.
a week now
Yeah.
because I've spent 600 in the first
Yes.
week, for example. So
Yeah.
you tend to you react on the run,
Yeah.
and you make it work.
Well, it's interesting because as you said, as much as I've just talked up how good this strategy is, I use the debit card approach, but I guess
Millennial.
that's exactly what I was about to say. Is that if I used cash, I'd be kicked out of the Millennials Club. So I've got to use the card. But what I find there, and that's kind of if that's the strategy you're going to use, and I've tried this in many different ways. The best way to actually do that is to have a completely separate bank that you use for that. So I use NAB for all my other banking. I have an ING account that I set up that I have just that card for that account. That's what I take with me everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how what you don't want to do is get in the habit of going, I've got this account that I've got for my day-to-day, $1,000 a fortnight goes into, but you don't want to have the app on your phone that you can just quickly, I'll just transfer money into that account from my bills account, or I'll just top that up because I've run out.
That's a good point.
You need that same forcing mechanism of if it's $300 a week or $1,000 a fortnight, whatever that amount is, that goes into that debit card account. And every time you tap that, you're watching that balance come down, and you know that that's it. There is no one's coming to save the day there until that next week or next fortnight's transfer comes up.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. It's just about being realistic and capping these expenses every pay period.
Yeah.
And look, they're the three main culprits, because as you mentioned before, Dallas, your land rates are in effect what they are. They are what they are.
Yeah.
Your
even things
electricity bill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's variable, of course,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a whole separate podcast. We
Yes.
also advocate setting up a bills account
That's right. Yeah.
to break your rates and
we've spoken like all those expenses,
electricity and all that up into pay
different. Yeah.
26 sort of bite-sized chunks.
And that's
you paid for
the point we've spoken about this before, is that it's important to review those things, and you do want to, but as you said, you only probably need to look at those things every couple of years. You know what I mean? You're not going to, if you go and review your home and contents insurance and get the best deal possible, there's no point worrying about overspending on that next week. You don't have to make day-to-day decisions.
That's right. So I mean, I did this just yesterday
Yeah.
with my general insurance broker. So my home and contents is due for renewal.
Yeah.
She called me, said I'd gone up a little bit, which I expected with the floods.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone better? No, this is the best.
Yeah.
This is the best company in Townsville.
Yeah.
Because
what you need.
and then I said, is there any way we can? Because it went up a little bit. It went up by about $500.
Yeah.
So I had to build that into my bills expense.
Yeah.
But I said, is there any way we can reduce that a little bit so we increase the excess by $500?
Yeah. Together.
And it dropped it by $150 from what she quoted me. So that was all sort of reviewed in about 5 minutes and done. So now can I say, it went up from 3,100 to 3,500, and then she brought it back to 3,350. So it's gone up a little bit. Now, can I squeeze it down any more? No, I can't.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. So it is what it is for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
And there's not much value in shopping certain expenses around, like for example, like we keep harping on electricity and rates and things like that, because there's so many expenses that you have.
Yes.
There's you need a full-time job to review every single one of them. It'd be your full-time job to review them all every week or every fortnight or every month. So these are the main culprits that we see for people. And
I think the reason, as we talked about this recently about the willpower thing, is that these are the types of expenses that that it's easy to overspend when your willpower, when your discipline, whatever we call that, which I think is a myth, and that's a whole thing that we've discussed. But there's decisions that need to be made every day for this. So every day you have to make a decision on how much money am I going to spend on entertainment, for like dining out, clothing, gifts, those sorts of things. Every day there will be at least one decision. And if you don't have any sort of framework for, do I do this or not do this? As I said, if there's no pain that you're giving up, it's just easy to go every day a little bit. That's fine. It's only $5 or $10 or $20 or whatever. Yeah. And as you said before, if that's where that budget gets blown out. The amount of times that we've sat down with people that do a budget up and they've got a theoretical surplus of $30,000 a year, which is a great racehorse name, but so they don't know where that $30,000 is going, and it's not. And normally they're looking for somewhere to point to go, oh, that's right, we spent $30,000 on that thing. Yeah. But that's not how it happens. No. It's $100 every day. It's those little bits and pieces all throughout there in these areas where it's easy to overspend. You buy an $80 shirt today, and then tomorrow you go out for dinner for $100, and then the next day you've got to buy a gift because you're going to a kid's birthday party. All those little things are generally where you find that money's going. It's not one big expense. It's the accumulation of all those things.
Yeah, and your point there was really good. You have to have an easy rule of thumb. As well. For me, this is so the big ones for us are that you would have a bills account. Yeah. This is separate to what we're talking about today. But you'd have a bills account where every fortnight or every week or whatever your pay period was, you'd siphon off X amount to cover all of your insurances and rates and electricity and all those types of things. You don't have to worry about it then. It's seated in that account. You would have a holidays account as well because people travel. And people that say they don't travel are kidding themselves. They travel. So what's dangerous about that is if you say you're only going to spend $1,000 on travel, but you spend $10,000, then that goes on your credit card, and you've got to pay that off. So you'd have a travel account. So the only thing left over then is whatever money's left over, effectively, after you've put money into superannuation, of course. We're talking about money over 50 here, not money over 20. So once you've done all that, which is done on a per pay basis, the next place to make sure that you don't overspend is what we're talking about here. So the main things that are left are entertainment, gifts, and clothing. They're the big ones that people generally say they spend very little on, but anecdotally when they look back, they spend a lot of money on those things.
No, I think that's a great place to wrap up. As you said, it's a strategy that we know works. We've tried it every other way. So through sheer trial and error, we've worked out that this is the best way to make that happen. And so, rather than just going, oh, geez, I can never seem to save money, or it just seems that money seems to disappear, this is a strategy that we know works.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Lighthouse Financial Advisors. We look forward to catching up again soon.